All right, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Hope that you had a great week so far. Want to give you all an update on some of the things that have gone on in Washington, some of the questions that we've got in for just a couple of minutes, and then answer your questions that you have specifically about what's happening in Washington as best as I can. So I want to start with a couple different things. Just one, as always, if you want to know when these YouTube live Q&As are going to be, like and subscribe, and you'll make sure to know when they are. You'll know other information that we put out about what's going on, things that can help you, when we're going to be somewhere in the district, you name it. It's just a good place to get information in ways that we can hopefully assist something that's bothering you in your life that's in our lane. So in that, I want to start with, again, huge issue that's been going on constantly, inflation. It doesn't cease to be an issue today. But this week, one of the things that I offered was 5 separate pieces of legislation, all related to the bottleneck supply chain, and in many cases, very specifically trucking. And some of these pieces of legislation were related to the big rig excise tax, or the excise tax on large chassis vehicles. So if we want more truckers out there, one of the easy ways to do it is to get rid of that big rig excise tax. Some of it was related to the diesel fuel tax. There have been a host of things that we can do in order to address this broken supply chain. One of the other things that we did is we went out there and we introduced a piece of legislation that was important in this way. A lot of people don't understand the hours of operation requirements for truckers. But if you're an over-the-road trucker, there are very specific requirements for how many hours of rest you have to get before you can be on the road. And that number is 10 hours of rest. And then if you're going to be not necessarily on the road, maybe stopping for lunch, or maybe you're at the pickup point for where you're going to get the load that you're going to move across the country somewhere. Well, that time that you might be loitering, waiting for that pickup load, you can't count that as rest time. Or if you're getting fuel or something like that, you can't count that as time where you don't have to be in a specific rest. And that becomes a problem for creating a situation, because of the logs for truckers on them having to stop in random places along the road where there's not a truck stop, where there's not restaurants, there's not a good place for them to specifically park their vehicle. And it results in a lower level of productivity in many cases. So what we introduced was a bill saying, under COVID-19 rules, this is both under the Trump administration and the Biden administration, there have been relaxed rules for the hours of operations of truckers. And if they were carrying things like Clorox wipes, or something related to the vaccine, or some sort of critical food like Frosted Flakes or something like that, right? If you were carrying those things, you could have this more flexible hours of operation schedule under the Department of Transportation. But if you weren't, if you were carrying, say, clothing or something else like that, then you had to fall under this more restrictive schedule. But the fact of the matter is, the government was acknowledging, hey, it's safe enough for truckers to move in this way, to be on the road for these hours, things like that. So the point is, if they looked at this and said there can be flexibility, why not grant that flexibility to everybody that's over the road? Reduce that bottleneck in the supply chain. Stop making our truckers have to seek out waivers in order to get that increased flexibility that they want and need in order to be as productive as they possibly can be going over the road. Why create those red tape hurdles? Why? Because that's what government does, unfortunately. They get in the way of things. They don't make things more productive. They make things less productive. I have the goal of doing the opposite of that, trying to make government not be a hurdle, but be a friend and actually assist. And this is in the aim of doing that. So that's a little bit about what we worked on supply chain, on what's gone on with things that can actually help affect reducing inflation. And so I want to talk about a couple other quick things this week. Other thing that I want to explain is appropriations in Washington, D.C. So right now we're in what we would call appropriation season. What is appropriation season? That's where all of the dollars of we the people, all of your dollars, get appropriated out to all of these federal agencies to be dispersed for a host of different things. Maybe it's for national defense. Maybe it's for USAID and bags of rice to go to some other country somewhere, right? Maybe it's dollars going to a highway to build a road somewhere. You name it. Those are what we would call appropriations. Now, in Washington, appropriations happen at the exact same time every single year. Every member of Congress knows this. Every government agency knows this. But what does Congress do every year? They move with zero urgency in order to get these appropriations bills done. And then they wait till the last possible minute saying, oh, we don't have time, but we really need to get this done. So we need to take all of these 12, there's normally 12 appropriations bills. So we have to take all of these 12 appropriations bill and we got to box them together into just one bill or just two bills instead of actually allowing individual votes on individual agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, being able to cast a vote to fund them if, say, they were going to build a southern border wall and work on securing our southern border, or not fund them specifically if Secretary Mayorkas, who's done an absolute crap job and has lied to the American people over and over again, isn't going to do his job. Well, guess what? Then they probably shouldn't get the funding that they're looking for. And that would be an example. But we don't get that opportunity because of the way both sides end up doing this, by the way. Both sides end up doing that and lumping those appropriations together. So it's a big problem. And that's what we are in the middle of have happened right now as we speak. Congress moving really slowly, but pretending that there's this urgency that they didn't know about. And I guess I would use that as a point to say, this is a problem. Obviously, it's a problem with Washington. But what you have is where there's a real urgency for you. Inflation is a real urgency in the life of every person and every business I know. Congress doesn't treat it with the urgency that it deserves. These bills, things that I talk about loosening up the supply chain, those things, they don't cost a dime. Many of them could happen immediately, but Congress moves with no urgency to pass these things. But then they create an urgency that doesn't exist, a false urgency when it suits Congress. And that's not serving we the people. And it's a major problem that exists. So I want to talk about one other quick thing before I move to everybody's questions. And this is just something personal, close to home. It is today specifically, it's Glioblastoma Awareness Day. I had a friend from Fort Pierce, Mark Cunningham, and have met a number of other individuals that have suffered glioblastomas. Some of them have unfortunately left this world far too soon and were left with their memories. But it is Glioblastoma Awareness Day, and it's just a good opportunity to think about that, to bring awareness to what happens in the lives of the families that are affected by glioblastomas, and remember some of the friends that we've lost and think about how we can do things better. We don't always know where and why these glioblastomas take place. The fact is, in Fort Pierce, Florida, there are roads that you've had multiple people on that road all have glioblastoma. It's a relatively rare thing to have happen. And there are roads in Fort Pierce where people have lived in the exact same house. And the people that have lived in the same house at different times have got glioblastomas. And when you have situations like that, you got to say that there's something that's more than what meets the eye. I guess that's a Transformers reference, more than meets the eye. But there's something that's more than meets the eye there, and we don't know what it is. But it's worth finding out. And I think we can move to think that it's probably because of something environmental that has gone on there, something that could be in the water or could be somewhere else that multiple people at multiple times are taking in, that's causing them to have these brain tumors. And that's something that no family, no person deserves, and it's worth looking into and worth fighting for. So in that, as always, like, subscribe, remind you quickly, if you care about what's going on in Stuart and the St. Lucie train bridge and making sure that our access to water and the Atlantic doesn't get cut off, please go on the QR code that we'll put up here and make sure to comment to the Coast Guard about how you believe the Coast Guard should manage that train bridge. Again, my personal comments on how we should work to not have our waterway cut off from us. make sure that the Coast Guard gives equitable access to water users. And since water has the right of way, I believe that water should get the boaters that are on the water, they should get access to their own waterways for, I would say, 45 minutes an hour, which is the opposite, unfortunately, of what trains are pushing for in our community, which is they're pushing for trains get to have 45 minutes an hour of access, where they put a bridge down over our waterway, and boaters in their own community don't get to access their own waterway but for 15 minutes an hour. Seems like absolute BS to me. So if that's something that you believe is worth fighting over, then I hope you make comment on that. In that, time to go to your questions and see if I can answer something in a helpful way for you. I'm going to get one of my staff to put up a question here. We'll see what they give to me. It said, hey, Brian, why aren't the immigration laws in this country being followed? And why aren't those disobeying them being held accountable? It's a very good question. Why aren't the immigration laws being followed? I spoke about this once before. Unfortunately, you have an administration and you have Secretary Mayorkas, who's the head of Homeland Security for this country, has gone out and lied to the American people again and again about what's going on the southern border, literally not enforcing our immigration laws, not looking to push that those trying to get into our country illegally have to remain in their countries of origin, trying to get rid of the Remain in Mexico policy, doing things and creating policy that really invites those that want to come into America illegally from Mexico and Guatemala and other countries, really creating a situation where the cartels are able to sell to people in these countries, hey, you go to America, we can get you in, we can tell you how you get to stay there, and we can make sure that you get asylum there by lying in this way. That's what's being sold, and you have an administration that is not interested in fixing that. In fact, these are real things that I have had to vote against in Congress. At one point, I had to literally vote against whether your money, your dollars, the money of we the people, because there's no government dollars, it's all your money, the money of we the people should be used to pay the legal fees of those that are coming into our country illegally. That was a Democrat proposal, that your dollars be used to pay the legal fees, pay for lawyers for those that are coming into our country illegally. It's because of policies like that and canceling and not completing the southern border wall and going out there and falsely alleging President Biden, falsely alleging that Border Patrol agents are whipping illegal immigrants when even right up until this moment when that's not the fact. These are all things that lead to what's going on with our broken border system and that kind of border policy. So I hope I answered that question. That's a lot of what I see going on here, but I think a lot of you see that going on as well. And we didn't even get into the fact that they're trying to send illegal immigrants around the country to various places, into, coming to a home near you, knowing full well that there is a very low likelihood that they show up to the prescribed court dates that they are given. So they're making a very specific effort to filter this problem to other places around the country. And that's a whole nother problem to talk about as well. So let's bring up another question here. From Dan, the railroad bridge, it's a big problem. I waited for a barge to go through for 45 minutes Saturday afternoon. This will affect a lot of people, commercial fishermen, commercial boats, pleasure boats, etc. You're absolutely right. This is going to affect everybody that wants to get through this waterway in Stuart, Florida. Why does it affect you? Because so you have three bridges sitting on top of each other. You have the Roosevelt Bridge, a very high bridge going over across the St. Lucie Waterway. Then you have a train bridge that's almost underneath of that. And then you have another bridge we would call the bridge going over Dixie Highway that's right next to that. That's actually a drawbridge. So you have all of these three bridges almost stacked on top of each other, a heavy current that's going through right there. And then you have the train that's trying to close their bridge for 45 minutes an hour. And between mean high water and the bottom of that train bridge is only about 6 feet. So whether you're running a flats boat, a center, 24-foot center console, there's not much room there if you got a bimini top or anything on that boat to even get under there. And that's just those boats. You talk about moving a 65-foot Viking through there, or a barge, as was discussed right here, or you think about Towboats USA and companies like that are trying to get through there. Our law enforcement officers who are on one side of the bridge but can't get to the other side of the bridge. There are a host of problems that occur with the Brightline closing down that waterway because they want to move 36 high-speed trains through there a day on top of the 14 freight trains going through there a day. There's a lot of problems that occur, and it doesn't work for their business model if they do less than that. So they don't really have a problem closing off our waterway. Now, they know damn well that it's not okay to close off our waterway, which is why they're trying to put in a few $1 million of their own to get a new train bridge built there that's higher, because they know it's a problem. But in order to do that, they are going to ask for, I don't know, let's say $100 million of money, of your money, your tax dollars, between the state of Florida and the federal government. And I'm going to go to another question in a minute. But while I do that, I'm going to say something to one of my staff. On my desk over there, I have a regulation that I printed off that it just talks about how what some of our other bridges are guaranteed access and what predictability looks like. I'm going to get one of my staff to find that on my desk, and we'll go to another question first, and then I'll go read that, what that regulation says. And the fact of the matter is, if Coast Guard puts a regulation in place that only gives boaters 15 minutes, it goes totally against other regulations that they've had. That's not it. It's actually a page with about 2 or 3 lines written on it. We'll see if my staff can find it. But let's go to another question first. So, that I'm going to get here. It says from James, Brian, did anyone end up taking the $20? Oh, the $20 that I put down. This goes to a speech last week on the floor of House of Representatives, specifically related to life. All right, life and abortion. There were abortion bills going on the floor of the House of Representatives. And I asked to the Speaker of the House a very specific question, of which I got absolutely no response, just a dead blank stare with no words said to me whatsoever. We are supposed to address our remarks to the chair. And I said, Madam Speaker, I said, can you just tell me, as we're talking about abortion, when does life begin? Just answer that question, because we are talking about a life. To you, when does life begin? Madam Speaker, does it not begin until the moment a child comes out of the womb? Is that your stance? It's not a life until it comes out of the womb, or it doesn't begin until the 3rd trimester, or it doesn't begin until the 2nd trimester, or until it has a heartbeat or brain waves or conception, or what is it? And they wouldn't give me a response whatsoever. And so, I took a $20 bill out of my jacket and I said, hey, maybe I'll give you some incentive here. Put a $20 bill down here. Anybody willing to come and answer this question from the other side? Because you all want to talk about it so much, but you don't want to actually talk about when a life is a life, which is a pretty important part of that debate and that conversation. Here's a $20 bill for you. No. Nobody came to take the $20 bill. There are going to be some other conversations this week on the floor about abortion. Maybe I'll try upping that to a $100 bill, see if that can entice somebody into answering a very important question. I don't mean to say this in a joking way at all. That's an important question for anybody that wants to step into that debate to have. And I think that they should be answering that question for themselves as they step in. I would always say, you wouldn't go into a football game, a baseball game, hockey, anything else, and write the rules in the middle of the game. No, you gotta define what the rules are before you ever start the game or before you get into the middle of the debate. And this can't be any different. So my staff did find this. I want to go back to just the waterway for a moment and answer part of that question. So here's an actual drawbridge schedule that I'm reading right here from the Coast Guard. And it says drawbridges must open promptly and fully for the passage of vessels when a request or signal to open is given in accordance with this regulation. Now, that's a short, brief thing to say. That's a regulation that applies to one of those 3 bridges that I was talking about right there on that waterway. If a boat pulls up that needs the bridge to open, Well, the bridge has to promptly open. If the boat is tall enough that it needs the bridge to open, it has to do that. So that's Coast Guard regulation right there. But what are they looking at coming up with right now? A policy that would close the bridge to any boater or barge or vessel that needs to come through there for 45 minutes an hour, and potentially 45 minutes an hour and 45 minutes the next hour stacked on top of each other, closing it a straight 1 hour and 30 minutes. So they're taking, regulations in one place and not following them through on the other place. And that's something that we can't allow to occur. And any fight that you all can help us in that, it matters to have you in that fight because it's your community. It's an opportunity you have to fight for your community. So let's go to another question here, see what y'all got today. What is going on with Florida homeowners insurance, especially manufactured homes? I attempted to obtain insurance with Citizens, but was unable for no reason whatsoever. So this is a question that we get a lot of calls about. We will try our best to direct you, take your information, direct you to whoever is your state legislature. This is an issue that's being dealt with in the state legislature, the state house, the state senate. I can tell you that I suffer the same problems as you do. I had my homeowners insurance canceled by Fed National right at the beginning of hurricane season. Right as that was upon us, guess what? My wife hands me this letter that we got in the mail saying that we're one of, 70,000 Floridians or something like that had their homeowners insurance canceled right at the beginning of hurricane season. That to me is total BS. That was not on accident that they canceled us right at the beginning of hurricane season. In my opinion, they should be held accountable in some kind of way for doing something as irresponsible and malicious as that. But in that, again, it's being dealt with in as at a state level with the state house, the state, and we will get your information, and we will do what we would call warm handoff for you to your local representative to try to get you more information on what's actually being done in the state house on homeowners insurance. Look, I'll just use this as an opportunity to say another thing. There's things that bother all of us, and insurance is one of those things. I can't pretend to you right now that Congress is doing any work on the affordability of health insurance. I would love to tell you that that they are. That's certainly another huge part of inflation that we see every single year as, the new insurance rates come out and you look at it and you say, oh, here's where my insurance is going to be this year. By the way, I don't get any special congressional health care because people always ask that. There's no special congressional health care that I get. I am a veteran, and I get all of my health care personally through the Department of Veterans Affairs. I do that on purpose. I want to make sure that I am seen alongside all of my fellow veterans. So I experience the good, the bad, and the ugly right alongside anybody else that served this country in uniform. But, seeing insurance rates go up each and every year, and the insurance company will tell you, oh, well, they only went up 15% this year or whatever. No, it went up 15% this year or 20% this year. But from when I originally got the plan 4 years ago, I'm up 100% or I'm up 80%. And it's not looked at that way, but it should be. It's just another form of inflation that we all hit. And I'm sorry that I can't tell you that this is an issue that's being taken seriously in Washington. I see very little work, unfortunately, being done on affordability of healthcare. And to preface that with one more thing, I do not sit on the committees of jurisdiction for healthcare. That would be the Committee of Energy and Commerce. I sit on the Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure and the Committee of Foreign Affairs. So let's go to the next question here. And just remind everybody, like and subscribe if you want to know when we're going to do these Q&As. Also, tell everybody, I like to think that this is the number one thing that I do as your member of Congress. It's not get on Fox News. It's not, necessarily even write bills or things like that. Number one thing that we do is be a go-between between you and the federal government. So if you're having problems as a senior with Social Security Administration, or as a small business owner with SBA or a paycheck protection loan or economic injury disaster loans, or the Department of Veterans Affairs, or whatever federal agency, I always tell people, if you don't like that you had to wait 2 rings on the phone, then let us help you out with whatever federal agency, IRS, if IRS is giving you problems and you can't get on the phone with them, that's a constant one. Getting on the phone with the IRS is one of the biggest pains in the rear end for anybody. So let us help you with that, and we will do every single thing that we can. So I'm being told that this may be the last question, depending on how quickly I'm able to answer this. But let's bring a question up, and we'll see if we can get another one. Jinwook is working the keyboard here, so we'll see how quickly Jinwook can get this question up. All right. Did Biden accomplish anything on his trip overseas? Did President Biden accomplish anything on his trip overseas? I do sit on the Committee of Foreign Affairs, so I do get classified briefings about what goes on in foreign relations. That's something that I pay a great deal of attention to. I would have to say, I think it was a net negative in a number of different fronts. We could laugh, unfortunately, about what happened with the Biden fist bump, but it showed just this waffling by the president, who came in to his administration saying he's going to make Saudi Arabia a pariah state, but then he transitions and says, well, I'm going to give them a fist bump, and I'm going to not worry about what happened to Khashoggi, the reporter that was chopped up, outside. I think it was outside of a Turkish embassy. I might not be getting that exactly right, but I think that's pretty close to what was going on there. You see a willingness to go to Saudi Arabia, hat in hand, saying, please open up the reserves for energy, because he's an administration that's unwilling to open up the reserves, the leases, the ability to go out there and produce more energy in America. So he's going to go hat in hand out to the Middle East and try to get them to do that, but did that unsuccessfully. So, that's a negative. You see how they are responding to the President of the United States of America. And then you see today one of the most concerning photos that anybody could see anywhere, and that's to see the Iranian leader, Vladimir Putin, and the leader of Turkey, a major NATO powerhouse, standing alongside one another. I don't remember if they were holding hands or giving fist bumps or just standing with each other or whatever it was, but that relationship right there between Russia, Iran, and Turkey says so much about how that extremely large NATO, supposed to be ally, is viewing their relationship with the United States of America versus their relationship with Russia and Iran, two of the biggest enemies, we could say, to the United States of America that exist right now. And we know that there's also a relationship there between them and China as well. So we could talk about what went on with that Middle East trip on a number of different fronts. We know that they're still pushing a worse Iran nuclear deal, which was in part negotiated by Russia. That's another big negative, one of the things that they were talking about. And Iran also coming out following Biden's visit saying, we have the capability to produce a nuclear weapon anytime we want. What does that result in the Middle East? That will result in a Middle East arms race. And that's, again, just another big weakness. That's, in my opinion, a result of failed leadership from this administration. So in that, it looks like I have hit the 30-minute mark. We try not to, make these things too long, as we try to do them every week that we're here in Washington. In that, I want to thank you all for your questions. Again, if you have questions that we didn't get to, or that we can help you out in some way, call our office, right? I think we'll put up a number on the screen. Call our office. We'll help you out for as long as it takes, however long it takes. I don't think we put people on hold. If we do, it might be only for just, a moment or two, or we'll call you back. We try to get back to everybody in forms of, letters, emails, phone calls, you name it. And again, just be that assistance for you between the federal government that might be giving you a problem somewhere and your issue. So anything that we can do on that, let us know. Like, subscribe if you want to know when this is going to take place again next week. And then also, if you can help us out with what's going on with the Coast Guard regulation in Stewart, and that's your backyard. You're in Port St. Lucie or North River Shores, Jensen Beach, Stewart, Palm City. You're in those areas of the district. Pay attention to that issue, because it affects your ability to navigate our waterways. It affects your home values, and it affects your quality of life. So in that, as always, it is it is absolutely an honor to be able to represent you as one of 435 members of Congress, to be able to take the oath again that I took as a member of the military to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. To be able to take that oath again, it is an honor. So thank you for allowing me that honor. I look forward to seeing you all back around home. You all take care.